Hello, everybody. Welcome to the TechRaptor podcast. I'm Robert Scarpanito, your features editor.
Andrew Rutten, editor-in-chief.
Austin Souther, staff writer.
Erren Van Duine, staff writer.
And welcome to the show, Erren. It's our new special guest, one that hasn't been on the show before. She is reviewing Baldur's Gate 3 because we're talking about Baldur's Gate 3 this week. Also, hi, Austin. You're also almost a regular at this point, but still technically a guest.
I guess it's okay that he's here. But
Can I be a special guest? That makes me feel better.
in a different way.
Yeah,
Okay,
you're a different kind of
that's,
special.
That's just nice, I guess.
Just for us.
It's nice.
That's just that's the kind of special you talk about in DMs.
Yep. Speaking of DMs, Dungeon Masters, they control games of Dungeons and Dragons, which is
I'm taking notes on the segues to grade them. That one's a good one.
Which is what Baldur's Gate 3 is all about. If you haven't heard of it, it's that game that's taken over Steam. It's got like I last checked.
What did it peak at? Yeah.
The peak is at 814,666.
That's crazy.
Man,
Oh, the
single
devil.
player's dead.
Oh no,
So
they
I
were
guess
right
it's
about
not
Dungeons
single
and
player,
Dragons
is
the
it?
whole time. It is for the devil. It's
It's
satanic.
all full circle, right?
Wow.
But yeah, it's taken over Steam. It's been in early access for the past 2-3 years, but it's officially out. Our reviewer Erren is with us. Hi, welcome.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Yes, and we're glad to have you to talk, and we're all going to talk about Baldur's Gate 3. So, in terms of spoilers, we're not going to go anywhere beyond the Goblin Encampment in Act 1. Even though, there's probably going to be weird little things of like, oh, how did you solve this situation? What did you do there? And what happened when you did that, right? And we're going to stay away from any critical path stuff. If you're trying to go in completely blind, this might not be the podcast for you, but also part of the joy is going through a situation with your character and your roles and your situation, and then figuring out how someone else just totally broke that situation or avoided it completely or whatever it is, right? Like, it's going to be weird and different. So that's the ride you're in for in this episode. And I want to start off with kind of quickly going through what characters we have, what the name of your character is, your race, your class, any weird quirks. Do they like walks on the beach? Erren, what's your Baldur's Gate character?
How you role playing them?
My character, his name is Kagari. He's a male human, and he's a ranger because in every game like this, I really love playing range class of bow and arrow, and like in Final Fantasy XIV, for example, I play the Bard, which uses the bow and arrow. It's kind of confusing, and I know Baldur's Gate 3 had a Bard class, and I looked at it and I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna stick with the Ranger for now, and maybe down the line I'll try their version of Bard. But for now, I'm pretty happy with how Ranger works in the game, and I did spend quite a bit of time in the character creator because there's just, it's really overwhelming actually, and even though like I didn't make my character like super detailed, and I still kind of like went back and forth and just ended up deciding on a pretty basic looking guy.
Well, I mean, sometimes that's the hero we all need in the world of Faerun.
I mean, if you're gonna look at somebody for hundreds of hours or at least 100 hours on a first playthrough, maybe he better look decent, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Right?
Austin, what's your goblin character?
Yeah, well, I wanted to go Goblin, but, I can't do that. Maybe in a DLC, actually.
Or mods.
If Larian's listening, yeah, that's true. I went with a Dweirgar cleric. He looks a bit like Papa Smurf, unfortunately.
Or fortunately.
Yeah, so it's
Or
unfortunate.
fortunately. Now, you mentioned, like, how are we role-playing them? Dweirgar are not nice people
No,
at all.
they're evil.
I found out, like, I don't have the capacity to be, like, super evil in video games anymore. I just feel really bad.
Just a smidge.
Yeah, so I'm just a
dash
smidge
evil.
evil. I kind of want to simp for Shadowheart, so I try to, keep myself a bit in check. Yeah,
evil
I said
too.
that. So, yeah, I'm balancing my evil tendencies with trying to get on somebody's good side.
Be a good little Dwargar.
Yes.
Andrew, what about you?
I am playing a male tiefling monk. I went monk because it's not something I normally would pick. I I think most games, like my first inclination is like a paladin of some sort. I do not know why.
No, of course.
I played paladin in most things.
Yeah, when I think of you, I think of
Um,
controlled rules and no improvisation.
No.
Righteous.
I've lived my life very organized back there.
Yeah.
But no, so I went monk because it was they're unusual for me, not necessarily anybody else. And his name is Dinglewald, a very noble name. He comes from a noble lineage.
Yeah, a true leading hero.
Yes, he looks like handsome Squidward a little bit. He's even blue, and that's what made it like hit. I was like, oh yeah, he's like very Squidwardy in that moment, and it's very funny whenever the camera cuts to him.
Very nice. I'm playing a purple male tiefling sorcerer who kind of looks a little bit like Morgan Freeman in a weird way.
Imagine if it had Morgan Freeman's voice.
I wish. His name is Bompo, and he has bright green hair with bright purple highlights and a green beard. It is the most clown shit I could make, and that's the hero of my journey.
Well, you made some choices.
I did, and I've made like 2 other characters because this is a very multiplayer game, right? It's a social game. You can be, where you play with friends, and we've all decided we're gonna make our like a separate multiplayer campaign, so we can all make our own characters there as well. So now I'm juggling 3 different characters total, which feels like a lot, but it's still kind of a lot of fun.
Are they all Bompo?
No, one is Bompo, one is I had a funny name for that one too. I forget what it was. But then I made a character that looks like Hermione Granger, so I named her Leviosa.
Oh my god.
That's pretty good.
How very funny.
And she's the bard, which funny enough, bard is kind of fun to play because you can, like, what inspired me is on my rogue character, I picked up a flute and started to play it, and I'm not proficient in performance, so every NPC around me was literally like, "Can you please stop? Can you please don't play this anymore?"
This is terrible.
So I wanted to see how a bard would do.
That's pretty good.
They're trained, right? They're good at their instrument. Yeah. How are people feeling about the party members so far? Because there's quite a bit you run into, and all of them have their own unique story. And if there's anyone here who's like feels really strongly about a character, I know Austin, you feel strongly about Shadowheart. Sounds like.
Yeah. Well, other than her, there's actually one character I really like that I don't see a lot of people talk about, and you can come across her before the Goblin Camp, which I did, and that was Karlak. And she's like a tiefling barbarian.
Yes.
And she's just like really goofy and just like, I don't know, relatable. Even well, I mean, not being
we all have
a soldier in the
infernal machines where our heart used to be.
Yeah.
I mean, I do, but not a lot of people do. I just like, I love her personality, and I definitely like, she's really good too. She should be on your team because she does so much damage.
Yeah, she's the barbarian version of Lae'zel basically, and
yeah,
I do like her. She's fun.
She's up there for me. She's one I always had with me.
She's the better Lae'zel.
There's a funnier moment that's later. This isn't spoiling anything, but she has like a fangirl moment. She's like, "Oh my god, that's fucking so and so." I'm like, "Jesus Christ!" And like has that conversation with you. He's like, "Oh my god!" Like, it's like, "Do you know what it is?" I'm like, "I have no fucking idea who that is." She's like, "What?" Like, yeah, which is pretty cool.
Pretty good. Yeah, Erren, is there any standout party member for you?
Oh my goodness. Well, Shadowheart's cool, but I think, and this is probably like a really common answer, but Asterion.
Oh my god.
He's so horny.
He is.
They all are.
I was like, man, he's going to do things to me in my sleep, and then he did. So you know.
Oh no! Well,
Not quite the things you would assume.
Not the. Yeah.
Oh no, but
you have a choice not to let him do that. By the way.
I know, but I was curious. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You want to see how these things play out. He's one of those characters he's not good, but he's not like super evil, but he's kind of in this gray area where
Very self-interested.
Yes, and he's unpredictable in that way, and I like that.
Yeah, I think honestly that's what I like a lot about all the party members I've met so far. I think because there's just 6 total, right?
At
There's
least
quite
in Act 1. I think
Yeah,
there's
there's a
more
lot more than
later.
that.
okay.
There's more later.
Okay. So what I'm liking about the ones I've found so far is that they're all pretty gray. Like no one's like I'm the good hero of whatever so far, right? There's Will, who is the warlock you run into, and he is the
Yeah,
most like he, they
he's
were
the
basically
most
like, how could we
white
make a
knighty.
paladin without making him a paladin?
Yeah.
And that's who Will is. But even he has like some gray in there where it's
Yeah,
like
he's
they're
into
not
some
all
shit.
good people. Yeah, they're all
I don't
kind of
know.
awful
They're
in
all
different ways.
pretty. I guess Gale seems pretty like
He,
straight. He did
he's
some shit.
whimsy.
He's
Oh,
done
he
some
pissed
shit.
me off so much, that guy.
Yeah, just feed him the magic. You don't need
He
the
doesn't.
bullshit.
He
You
can
don't
find
need
his
it.
own items.
You don't need it. It's
Well,
not.
if he's
It's
on your
not
party, he
worth that
might.
much.
No, he's not on my party. I don't let
'Cause
him.
you're gonna make him blow up. He's gonna destroy the
I mean,
world.
I gave him everything. Now he shuts up. But I don't. I just, I don't want.
I
him.
like his story. He's got a neat backstory. He's got some weird shit going on.
Mm.
Have you had him die at all? Has he died on you guys?
No, because I don't use him.
You should. I'm not saying you should kill him off or anything, but it's
But-
interesting when he dies.
I actually almost told Asterion to like fuck off though, like for good, because I'm like, do not suck my blood. That is what my Dwergar would say. He'd be like, no, don't.
Yeah.
I almost
Fair.
hit him.
Yeah.
He's so funny when you talk to him too. He's like, "Why are you staring at me?"
Mhm.
He's,
No, dude, why are you staring at me?
But he's just
Yeah.
got that like, darling. That that whole
Oh,
vibe.
yeah.
Yeah.
He
God,
reminds
I
me very
love
much of, and he looks like this too. Looks like Timothy Olyphant a lot.
Oh
That
my
was-
god.
That's who I'm all constantly thinking about whenever I talk to him and look at him. I'm like, oh, that's just who it is.
Yeah.
He kind
I'm
of
not
sounds a
gonna be
bit
able
like
to
him.
unsee that now.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean I do kind of want to revisit so Asterion is horny, but so is like
Very much.
kind of the entire
They
kind of the
kinda all
entire
are.
game
Yeah.
is pretty
Yeah,
horny.
like even Shadowheart was like, "Oh, you want to do something else with me?" And I was like, no."
You bet.
Yeah. Austin's on board.
Yeah, I've
Yeah.
been playing like the way I've been playing Bompo is kind of like self-service, like yeah, I'm strong enough. If you're not, that's your fault, kind of a thing, which is funny for being a sorcerer with like 8 strength. But I'm making all these choices that Lae'zel's been approving, and then all of a sudden she's like,
Uh-oh.
"You, I want to taste you." And I'm like,
Yeah.
Dude, she comes at you hard. Yeah. I had that
Yeah.
moment too, and I was just like, she is not mincing words.
"Yeah, it's."
And then I
it is."
declined her advance, and she's like, well, fucking you're lost, buddy. And then walked off, basically. Like,
She said, I'm gonna go to Asterion instead.
oh, did she for
She
you?
literally said that. Yeah.
Oh, did she?
She was
Yeah.
different. That's funny. That's good stuff.
Yeah. I'm just surprised at how just like kind of open this game is about it, right? Like even
Yeah,
from
and
the start, you know.
I haven't seen them myself in game, but I just social media. They show you some stuff. I'm not saying like you're seeing the whole thing, but it's like, oh my god, they had
mean,
someone animate this.
You can choose the size
Yeah,
of
that's
your
true.
yeah.
You should choose the size of your junk in the
Yeah.
in the creator.
Yeah,
So it
and
should be that surprising.
but they do at least start like before you're like, oh, this game is too sexual for my Christian eyes. There is the option in the beginning for like you can,
Oh, you can't turn off the nudity. Yeah.
you can turn off nudity.
Yeah.
That's a toggle you can do throughout the whole game, which
Yeah.
for some people, if that's what they want, or if you're like playing around kids, obviously, right? But,
Yeah.
yeah.
Fuck that. This is HBO.
I
You
feel
do
like the
that
only
one.
other time I've seen a disclaimer like that to toggle is like Modern Warfare 2 before the airport level.
Oh.
It's like
Oh, the no
you
Russian
can
level.
skip this. Yeah. Like you just don't see that often. I mean, it's fine. I like that there's an option.
Yeah. Did you guys explore all the buildings in the destroyed village with the goblins?
I did, yeah.
I haven't gotten to it yet, but in early access, I played through that area. But probably changed
There's
a lot.
A very, very funny moment that you can walk in on in one of
Oh.
those buildings.
Oh, I haven't seen that
Oh.
yet.
Oh, I won't say more.
If you know,
Just
you
because
know.
it's very surprising. I was like, what the fuck is going on here? Some people are in a compromised position,
Yeah,
and
some
it's pretty
people.
good. Yeah, well, some humanoid
People.
like figures.
Mm,
Uh, yeah,
yeah.
it's pretty funny though.
Yeah, I think this game kind of just swings for the fences in like every direction, right? It's like
Yeah,
in the serious moments, it tries to be very, very, like
yeah.
strong and like serious in it, but then it's weirdly goofy. All the characters will make jokes that just fit them really well. Like Lae'zel is not quite like a Drax from Guardians of the Galaxy, but it's
Yeah.
like the way
Yeah.
she's funny is of how unfunny she
Yeah.
is, right?
And just how
Um,
much it's is based on her just misreading or misunderstanding a thing.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and I think they deliver it through dialogue really well, but also in a surprising way, the facial animations. Because this game is very like BioWare, and it's like here's a shot of the person talking, they cut to you, back to them, right?
Yeah.
But the face animations are just good enough and unique
Yeah.
enough where
I
your
would say that's
character.
always the case.
No,
Some
no,
Not
are
with
not
BioWare.
great, but
yeah,
there
And
are
there's
some moments that are like, oh damn, that's actually really good.
yeah, like
Works really
I,
well.
or funny. There are times where my character like reacts to a thing and it has like Pokemon Arceus when your character's surprised and their face is just like their mouth is wide open. It has
yeah.
like that energy sometimes, which is great.
Yeah.
Or there's
Yeah,
yeah.
I really can't get like the look of intimacy in my dwarf's eyes.
Hmm.
I can't get that on my head. It's
Oh,
I thought you said you could not get him to express it.
No.
No matter
He
how hard I
expressed it
tried.
all right. It's just really weird to look at. Like I said, it's like seeing Papa Smurf like get romantic with somebody.
Dude, we talked before the pod. Old people are getting it on all the time.
yeah.
And,
Apparently.
There's this one exchange I remember where Lae'zel, she's a little bit racist, right, against kind of everything, but also
yeah, she thinks she's the best. Everybody should be her slave. Literally, she says like,
yeah.
you meet well, you maybe haven't got there. But you're like, oh hey, I see you got some sweet slaves. Like, take those and go do your fucking mission. Like, they just assume the other people with her are her slaves.
Yep.
But there's a scene where she's like mispronouncing tiefling, and she mispronounces like Faerun, and what your dialogue options you can choose to correct her, and there's one where she just like doesn't say anything and rolls her eyes, and like I don't think I've ever seen a video game character roll their eyes, or I can't think of the last time I have.
There's
It's
got to be, but it's good stuff. It's good,
yeah.
good little attention to detail that this game has like everywhere. There's so much.
Mm-hmm.
I love the dynamic between Shadowheart and Lae'zel because they absolutely hate each other's guts. And having them on in the same party is just like really funny because they argue all the time.
Right. I'm loving the dynamic between Will and Karlak.
Yeah,
It's
it
almost
gets
making me.
better, too.
It makes me wish I had Will in my party more. I don't play with him as much, but like they're definitely gonna end up together. Is the vibe I'm getting, which is very interesting.
The well, I don't know how. Maybe you haven't. Well, you said you played early access stuff. Like they're why I like it and why I like what they're doing with a lot of the characters is there's a lot of conflict. Not necessarily that they. Well, there are some where they just fucking hate each other, but like their goals and histories and what they want are all very in opposition to one another sometimes. And like there's even some conversations where like your guys be like, come on dude, like we gave this one a win, like yeah, it's a give and take, man. Like I know you're not a fan of this, but now it was her turn, now it'll be your turn next. It's kind of like what you're saying.
Right.
Like I know you're not a fan, but like we stuck out our neck for you, that's what we're doing for her, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And Will and Karlak's story clashes. Not personality wise, they don't necessarily, but
I think I
their
know
storylines.
what. I don't know. That's the hard part. Is like, what do we say it right? But because okay, well here actually is a very good example. So I was talking with one of my friends who I was playing it with because we all also have our own solo games we're playing. And so he was saying to me like, "Oh, my character failed. They get a permanent like -1 to perception
Oh, that fucking sucks.
checks because they lost an eye."
Oh.
And I was like, "Oh, how did you lose it?" And he said, "I mean, I don't want to spoil it, but it happens in, it's just it's a thing that happens in the game. And I said, oh, is it because of an NPC? Like, did an NPC like to talk to them, and then it led to this? He said, oh yeah, it is. And I was like, oh, I know what it is then. And I said what I thought it was. And then when I said that, he was like, what the fuck, there's that too? So there, what I'm saying is there's multiple ways to lose your eye
Yeah.
in the first act alone.
Now I'm very curious of what that
fascinating.
is, because I know of, I think the other way you probably told this person.
Yeah.
That is the most common way that everybody can lose their eye. But if you do it, you do get something pretty sweet. I was very curious. I was like, this dude's something's up. Like, I want to see the end of this. And they give you many opportunities to be like, hey, fuck off. Like, don't do this in the middle of it. But it's good stuff.
Okay. When you use dude there, are you using it in the gendered way or the post millennial
He is
non-gendered way? Okay,
right. Yeah, he's a dude.
The way I know,
he's a guy.
it is not a dude.
What?
Actually, since you said you haven't done the Goblin camp yet, you will not have had this dude in your camp yet.
It's true.
So never mind.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, there's another way. There's a third way to lose your eye, apparently.
Yeah. Okay. So that's the beautiful thing about this.
I didn't know about the other two.
I do want to say this guy that Otton and I are thinking of, he said, and this is, I'm trying to avoid spoilers, but he says something to the effect of, I can't wait to pick your brain.
Yeah.
That's a literal.
Well, okay, this isn't much of a spoiler, but like, so part of the main thrust of the game is that we all have fucking worms in our heads, and we're being controlled. Well, we're not turning into mind flayers for whatever reason that we're still trying to figure out. And we're all like, hey, get this fucking worm out of my head. I don't want to be a mind flayer. And so there's like a bunch of ways you can be like, hey, do you know anything about fucking worms? Get this fucker out of here. To a lot of different people.
Yeah.
And this dude's just like, hey, I can just like I can just cut it out. And you're like, can you? And he's like, I mean, I've thought about it. I could probably do it. Like, that's basically how it goes. Yeah. I'll leave it at that. But it's just another one of those, like, fucking I can do it. Like, it's that vibe. Like, yeah, sure. Kind of thing. So I don't think it's much of a spoiler. It's just another way for you to try to get this fucking worm out of here.
Mm-hmm. This is what I'm loving about this game. There's so many different ways to do everything.
Yeah, I can't. I'm already, like, I've gotten through Act 1, and I know there's 3 acts. And I'm already like, oh, I can't wait to play this again as somebody else, because there's so many different ways. Like, there's that one, what's it, the dark, whatever the fuck it's called? I can't remember. It's
Urge? Something
Yeah,
like
the Dark
that?
Urge or something.
Oh.
They said to everybody, like, hey, probably don't do this for your first playthrough, because apparently it's, like, quite a bit different, and a lot more fucked up at the beginning. Like, really gruesome.
That's what I've heard too, yeah.
And I'm intrigued on what that is, what that means, and where it goes. But like you're saying, like, even just going somewhere like, dude, I'm gonna try to do the least amount of combat as possible. I'm gonna go like a bard and be like, come on, buddies, like, let me distract you with my song.
Yeah.
So I have a friend actually who started with the Dark Urge, and he said it's so like ridiculously difficult.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Interesting.
and like he wanted to just like go full on like evil bad guy, and I was like, okay, have fun.
That's kind of what it seems to fit with that one.
And that it does basically lead into that, and you know, if you want to be a genocider, you know, go right ahead.
Oh, I don't know.
That sounds like a fun second playthrough.
It does sound pretty fun.
I mean, he said he's having a lot of fun with it, and he really wanted like the really difficult challenge. So that seems to be what that mode is all about.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I've noticed even. I mean, this isn't new in RPGs, but like even your race that you choose, I feel like affects a lot.
Yeah.
It feels like it affects a lot more than I've experienced in like other RPGs.
Yeah, I agree with that. Even other Larian stuff.
Yeah, because I mean, I think on you will know this because you're playing a tiefling too. In that first encampment where you're like, it's the druids versus the tieflings, like you immediately get this like my people sense to it. You know, like I must protect my people.
Well, and there's a lot of very tiefling specific dialogue. Be like, dude, like you could have a million reasons of like I'm doing it because of this reason. And they'll give you like 5 dialogue options. One of them just like they're my fucking people, dude. Like, that's it.
Yeah, and then I spun up one of my other characters as a Githyanki rogue because I was like, primarily I was curious, like, is Lae'zel gonna be a dick to you? That's what I wanted to know because she's a dick to literally everyone.
Yep.
And then when I talked to her, she was like, hello, fellow, my sister in arms. We must go find a creche. Like she doesn't even explain the funny language she uses. She just straight up says like creche and like geek and all that stuff to you
That's
as
good
if you
stuff.
will know what it is because
Yeah.
you're her brother or sister. Like it's interesting.
The writing is so insane in this game, and
Yeah.
what I find really cool is that if you, I always try to keep like a potion of animal speak like on me so I can talk to animals, and that just like opens up a whole different dynamic. You can also resurrect the dead and talk to them, so you can do that on like crucial NPCs and get like more information out of them.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there's like tons of other ways through which you can explore different means of dialogue that I just haven't even discovered yet.
Yeah. And what's cool about those kind of abilities is there's ways to permanently get those without having to use certain things.
Yeah.
Or have them, or it's a class that would not come across that spell or ability at some point, which is pretty rad. Like that, I really love that. A lot of this is like they're not afraid of a permanent change. Like you said, like your friend getting his eye taken out and be like, all right, you -1 perception. Like, fuck, that sucks.
Yeah.
That blows. But or like when Asterion might visit you in the night, like you can just be like, all right, you're just gone. Like, bye. There's multiple decisions you can make where you're just like, all right, you're fucking dead, bam, and you're like, oh, okay then.
Yeah.
Where they just make a lot of permanent stuff pretty frequently, which is good. I like that there is like very tangible consequence. That's the whole point of the thing is like it wants to follow the logic of like what would someone actually do that. I'm not in a video game I'm going to soften the blow for you because you're the player character, but like no, this is like what would fucking go down in this moment. And same with like how you think
it's
of stuff.
so funny that you say that too, because even like the smallest little thing can really screw you over. For example, I was in the goblin camp and all I did was I picked up this like drink and I got thrown in jail. And so I'm sitting there like my player character's in jail and the rest of my party is not in jail. So I'm like,
shit,
okay,
I didn't even think about that.
so I had to take control of my other party members and then go through the NPCs and whatnot and then actually find my player character in the dungeon. So that was interesting. Yeah, like, and the first time I was there, I didn't do that. So I was like, okay, I'm just, because I had died a few times and I was kind of exploring like the different ways that you could approach that area, and I was like, all right, here's this random drink. It's sitting right where you go into the camp, and some random goblin's like, well, you know what? You're going to jail.
Well, did you have to do a jailbreak, or did you just wait it out?
No, I did break out of jail, and then I was a fugitive.
That's awesome. That's such a cool thing that like most people, like a bunch of people wouldn't necessarily come across. That it creates an entirely new problem that nobody else had to deal with.
I also have a going to jail story in this game. And it ends in my favorite thing I've learned about this game. So in the Druid camp, that first merchant you meet, like Erren, I think it's his name, is like the dwarf.
Oh, I thought he was like a gnome dude.
Like
but
Arden, maybe. If it was along those lines.
Either way.
The name. But so we looked at his inventory. This is the multiplayer game. I played with the 2 other friends. So there's 3 of us, and then we had an NPC.
You thieving sons of bitches.
Yeah. So I was playing the rogue with a high sleight of hand. So I was like, okay, let's pickpocket some of this cool shit. Immediately, straight to jail. Immediately, the Fred Armisen straight to jail gif, right? And it's funny because I tried to bribe him. I was like, here's 50 gold. Could you look the other way? And he's like, I'm offended that you tried to bribe me.
Oh, yeah, that happened to me in the Goblin camp too. And I was like, come on. Like, it's just one little drink that was just sitting on an edge.
I had a separate moment where I bribed someone and it also didn't work.
Wow. No one likes bribes in this.
I never do the bribe. I just like either intimidate
well, he thanked me for the
persuade.
money and then attacked me. I was like, fuck you.
Well, so then I went to jail, and then my 2 other friends were still controlling the characters running around, right, and controlling the 4th person. So I snuck out because there's a way, if you do end up in jail in the Druid camp, there's a way out. There's a side path you can climb out, and then I didn't realize that I had a fugitive status. It's a status that you get, or it's like for 15 turns.
Oh,
you're a fugitive, and if
Yep.
anyone sees you, you're immediately attacked on sight.
Oh, interesting. But that's nice that it's there's an end state too, because like to be locked out of the grove, like sorry, that's it, you're just fucking done. I'd be like, I don't know what to do with the rest of this act.
You're
Yeah.
just
If you
gonna
were just
sit in jail and twiddle your thumbs.
that would be actually kind of neat. I would have loved to see how they wrote it to like be like, all
Yeah.
right, we got to get you out of this act, because like Act 1 is very much like centered around shit going on at the grove.
Right.
And so if that was just something like, nah, you're enemies with them now, I'd be like, I don't know what the hell's gonna happen.
Mhm.
I wonder how the Dark Urge plays into that.
Yeah,
then.
that's intriguing
Right.
to think about. Yeah.
So what ended up happening is I had to kill two, and so now in this save that we have with my friends, 2 of the NPCs you talk to are dead, and it's the
Oh,
2 where
no.
it's like the one where when you first get to the encampment and that one person dies, and it's the 2 people mourning that person. So I've killed
Yeah.
both of them. We've killed both of
What?
them,
Why them?
because they're the ones who found me. They're the ones in front of the goblin in the cage.
I
Right?
guess they're with their friend now.
Yes. So then we were like, do we need to hide the bodies? And this is where we
yeah.
learned you can pick up bodies. And by
Yeah.
pick up, I don't mean you drag and drop. I mean they're an item in your inventory.
Yeah.
And that is the best.
Stuff it in my
That's very
bag.
good to know, actually.
Yeah. So we made Lazelle carry, because she's the strongest of us. She carried 2
Yeah.
bodies.
That's awesome. Hey, what's in your bag?
best.
Just I'm the mule. Just a bunch of shit.
Just imagine
Bunch of
stuffing
books. I
body
got like
in a
100
bag
books
of holding.
back here. Yeah. That's funny.
I have a question for you guys, and this is like kind of coming up on Twitter and stuff. To save scum or not to save scum? Because I'll give you my thought on it. I do save scum because 1, I'm an idiot. 2, I
At least you're honest.
yeah. 2, if I choose an option that I find doesn't fit, like I thought fit my character at the time, but then ends up that it doesn't, I'm like, I don't really like that. So I sometimes save scum. I don't like do that when I fail a roll. The roll is usually, what happens. But like I've had situations where things happen that wasn't what I wanted for my character. And so I kind of went back to see what other options I could do. And it has turned out much better, but I also wonder if I stuck to it, would I enjoy it, less, more? I don't know.
I don't. I'm gonna be lame and be like, there's not really a right answer on it, because I think it's what you want out of it. Like if you're someone that's like, look, this is a really long game. I'm probably not gonna do another playthrough like where it's like, oh, it'd be cool to be able to redo something like that in the future. It's like, no, I really just want to see what happens with this. I think that's fair.
Yeah.
Be like, look, this is a big game. Like this is the one that I'd like to see, or like where I'd like to go with it. Personally, I really like the oh shit, I guess I got to do something else, or like the failure of it, or like, oh fuck, that was not a consequence I anticipated, and that kind of stuff. So I guess it's just really what you want out of it, and like, because as someone who's already looking forward to like playing it again, I'm like, oh shit, like I like the idea of not knowing.
Yeah.
And
yeah. I'm gonna be lame and also give you a on the fence answer. Here's my logic. Solo play, save scum all the way, because to me, I'm most curious about the different outcomes. Like I want to see all the different ways a thing can end.
I think that's a fair reason to do it.
Yeah, because I think it's really fascinating to see how this game kind of unravels itself and tells you a story based on your choices, and that they're all really dramatically different for the most part.
Yeah.
But for multiplayer, I think my friends and I, after killing those 2 people and stuffing them in a pocket, decided no saves. We will live with all the choices and consequences we make, because you can save scum multiplayer as long as the host saves. It's pretty easy because it loads for everyone, which is nice. But there's some kind of fun in creating your own mistake pile. That I love that.
That's
Yeah. I feel like that's. Sorry, I'll just say I feel like that's the route I would go if I did multiplayer as well. So,
yeah.
I feel the same with multiplayer, but for myself, I've just mostly been kind of playing it safe and kind of going what I think is the right thing to do, and then maybe being neutral in other aspects. But for the most part, I've just been trying to be nice, but not like, super nice or anything.
Yeah, not a pushover.
No, definitely not. I mean, there's definitely stuff I disagree with, and I kind of weigh the different choices that you're given, and sometimes I'm just like really curious to see what the outcome is. Like one of my trips to the goblin camp, I didn't, so there's an NPC that you're supposed to rescue in there first. Well, first. But you can actually go about the goblin camp and do so many different things, and it's kind of overwhelming. But so one of the things I did instead was I talked to the priestess first, and she's like, well, come back with me and I'll help you with the worm. And I was like, okay. And I just wanted to see how far it would go, and she eventually like feeds you this sleep potion, and she tries to like take advantage of you and lock you up, and I was like, yeah, no, I'm not gonna deal with this. And then she sets this big troll on you, and then you die. So
Whoa.
yeah, it's really crazy, like just how your different choices can bring you down things you don't expect.
Yeah, like
Yes.
it is wild just how many different endings there are to like kind of even the littlest things. Like after you meet Karlak, she's on this little quest that you can help her, and it's like right next to where she is.
Yeah.
And even that one, there's like a lot of weird different things you can do with it. It's a pretty straightforward, like she hates these people, kill them.
Mhm.
That's the
Yeah.
mission. But it doesn't have to be just that.
Really? I mean, I thought it was straightforward. Like,
Because they try to lie to you.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a lot
if-
of different things that can
Yeah.
happen.
I'm sure if you're someone who
and
didn't
there's
catch
a lot
the
of
lie.
characters who try and lie to you, and I'm like, I don't think so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's actually worked out because with like a monk class, like they're pretty high on like insight and stuff. And he's like, "Hey, you're fucking bullshit." Like, so it's been like, oh, okay, that's been nice because like I like the narrator comes up like, oh, they had a weird tremor in their voice or whatever. And I now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, man, is that like true? Like if I were just someone as a person listening, could I have then caught the signs that the narrators tell me that my character then caught? I don't know.
I
I doubt
kind of
it,
probably not.
but that would be fucking cool. Now that I'm thinking about it.
Well, because when the narrator chimes in, then it gives you different dialogue options.
Yeah.
So I think
Yeah.
from a game mechanic perspective, they need you to pass the
Yeah.
check, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is interesting. Yeah, because you wouldn't be able to be like, you're a fucking liar, like without having that show up.
Right.
Yeah, I think some of it also relies on like there's one quest that has some sirens, and you can kind of like if you
Really?
know general siren lore, you're like, oh, they're tempting me out here to kill me, so obviously I'm not going to listen to them.
Yeah.
See,
Like-
I'm almost in Act 2, and I'm pretty sure I'm further than you, and I haven't even seen Sirens, so that's just kind of crazy that, like, we will see totally different things.
Yeah.
Did you explore the whole Act 1 map?
I thought I
Yeah,
did.
they're really close to like that first like encampment.
Mm.
Yeah, that was one of the because I just went to Act 2 and like right before I was like, I need to check out all the map. And then I stopped myself like partway. I was like, I'm gonna play this again. Like I would rather be like, oh no, I naturally stumbled upon some other shit
Right.
in the future. So I stopped myself from doing that.
Mm.
Be like, look, I've experienced a lot. I'm a-okay moving on. Like if I missed out on something, I'll catch it on the other side. And if it's really good, I'll hear about it later from
Yeah.
someone else. So
Oh yeah, I've already been spoiled about some like quest references that are in the game somewhere. I don't know where they are, but I saw one of the names and I was like, oh no, they didn't.
Oh, is it like so I'm someone that knows nothing about like D&D lore. Is it like one of those kind of things? Like,
Oh no,
this is
it's
unknown?
actually a Final Fantasy 14 reference.
Oh, okay, like a
Oh.
reference like that. Oh, okay, I see what
That's
you
cool.
mean.
Yeah,
would
so
know
they
about
referenced
that.
another game, and the reference
Oh.
that it is like one of the saddest things in Final Fantasy 14. So I was like, oh no.
Yeah.
Oh. So we've gone almost 40 minutes here talking about a Dungeons and Dragons video game without talking
Without
about
talking.
combat. Because I mean, there is so
Ooh.
much to this, and I know in our before we recorded, Erren, you hinted at you have some hot takes about
Yeah,
potentially about the
so
combat.
oh man, the combat system, I feel like, well, first of all, this game most definitely is not really designed for newcomers in my opinion, because they
it's
it just kind of throws you in and you get like a couple little tutorial things and they're like, here you go. And if you don't know anything about D&D, it's kind of like, well, I'm doing what now?
Yeah.
And so for me, I know about D&D and I have a general knowledge based on that, but I'd actually never played Baldur's Gate or any of the other ones before, or Divinity, any of those games. So going into this, I was like, okay, this is going to be an entirely new experience for me, and I'm just gonna, see how it goes. And I've actually spent a lot of time just kind of learning and working my way around the systems just because it's all brand new to me. And so I'm thinking about like the 800,000 people playing, like, wow, like this is brand new for a lot of them. Like it has to be. And this game isn't like super easy to get into. And I think that especially extends to the combat because if you are not prepared, you can just go in and get trashed out of nowhere. And I've learned this lesson the hard way many a time already.
Oh yeah, I agree with you. I think that the beginning stuff. I think I said that I was talking to somebody. I was like, holy shit! If I hadn't, I have not. I've watched D&D stuff. I know D&D, and like I was familiar enough with how certain things go. But like, if you're not familiar with like what the fuck does armor class mean, what's an ability check, like what's a saving throw, what's all this shit, I don't know what any of this is.
But yeah, and the game doesn't tell you about like
No.
all these different abilities you
There's
have.
a ton of stuff. That's
And so I've been playing on controller, and it's even more kind of like buried in the menus. So you have like the extra abilities. You actually have to push like R1 or R2 or whatever, and like get into this like weapon wheel type thing, and then select from there. So you don't have the menu at the bottom. So I was kind of confused at that at first, but I still wanted to play in the controller. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna learn this, and I'm gonna get used to it. And I did, but at first I was like, why am I just doing like simple attacks,
Yeah.
because like I said, the game doesn't say, hey, you can use these abilities and your class can do this and this, and why are you not hand holding me a little bit?
I agree, and I think what makes it a lot harder too is that you're I mean, obviously you have a bunch of party members, but you're rolling around with 4 people. And that's 4 separate people, 4 separate sets of abilities, and 4 sets of equipment, and 4 inventories. And like I was thinking about that. I was like, fuck, it'd be way easier to just play a D&D game of like in terms of, all right, I got my guy, and
I
I'll
have
figure out my
played,
guy.
like actual tabletop, and it is so much easier.
Yeah.
Because you're almost playing as a DM against
In a way.
DM that is the game. It's because you're controlling so much. And I think what doesn't help either is that learning the game is kind of steep, for people who don't know D&D. But then also the game itself is a little difficult.
I would say that even on like the quote unquote narrative mode or whatever it's called, even that's difficult because I've swapped around a little bit just to see, and even that one, like, you can roll up to a battle and just get smashed, and that's then you game over or have to reload or whatever and try again. But
it's extremely punishing. Like you can have a dude die, like one of your characters die.
I was surprised at how punishing it was, and you do get like a little opportunity to like help your character up, but then they only have like 1 HP, and at that point you're like, well, you're scrambling to heal them, and a lot of the times it just doesn't work out.
And they lose their main action when they're pulled up that way, which doesn't help.
I find that having played Divinity Original Sin 1, it definitely helped because that game definitely encourages you to like exploit the environment, mess around with it, and you really do have to do that in this game too. But it's not something you think about because it's not like a very common mechanic in games, I don't think. And like you really have to think outside the box. And I've also found that there's like some like jankiness to the combat overall. I've had crashes several times because of the
I've also
huge
encountered
explosions
some bugs and things like that, and I'm kind of like, for me, I actually wish that the console version was out so I could play it on my big TV, but that's just like a me thing.
Right.
Speaking of the big explosions, there's a certain area and you can go to the Underdark at some point. I'm not spoiling much for anything. There's an area where there's these gas clouds and these like mushrooms that produce them, and I was like, get this fucking shit out of my way. and they all blow up, and like this explosion. I'm like, I was sitting here like looking at the time, like, is this gonna end at some point? Like they just kept going.
It's like 2
and then I
FPS.
remembered that I was supposed to be looking for a guy that was like out looking, like picking stuff, and then his just charred corpses in the middle of that. And
Oh no.
I was like, oh well, that's
That
I found
guy.
him.
I love how stuff like that can count for like the quest completion though. It's just
Yeah.
so out there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's true.
that is nuts. But yeah, I think too with the combat, it kind of falls in the I know that's like just the way D&D is, but it has a very XCOM kind of vibe where it's like,
Yep.
I swear to God, this is a 60% chance to hit.
Oh
And
yeah,
they really
I've-
mean
I
like
feel like I
you're
miss
gonna
way
miss.
more than it says.
Yes.
You're like right next to an enemy and you miss.
Yeah, like it's gotten to the point where I'm like trying so hard to get advantage on everything, and like I'm gonna knock them prone to like make sure I miss still.
I think that's
it's lot.
a lower level thing. Once you level up some, that's much less of a problem.
Yeah.
Not to say that you won't get fucked up still. It's just different because when you're low level, it's like a miss. You're missing a bunch. When you're not necessarily missing later on, there's just more going on. So I think it's just more frustrating when it's a miss. You're like, fucking A, man. Like, especially when it happens multiple times, but that becomes less of a problem
Yeah.
as
Like,
you level up and go.
because there's a boss fight in the I don't know, boss might be a strong word, but there's a big fight that I've done that's like a side thing where the mechanic is they create illusions of themselves, and you have to, if you do any instance of damage to an illusion, they disappear, right? But the shitty thing is all of the illusions can cast spells, so suddenly one spellcaster turns into 4 spellcasters, and that's 4 different fireballs or hold persons or whatever on you, and then it's like I just need to do literally a damage to this guy, and I keep missing, and that fucking sucks.
Oh man, the Goblin Camp's kind of like that too, where they can use this thing called a war drum and summon like the whole camp
They
against
just
you.
keep coming.
Yeah, and that keeps happening to me in my current playthrough, and I'm like, I just need to like sneak back out there because I'm still a fugitive, and so I need to sneak back out there and like get rid of this drum, and then find my way back through and kill the rest of these guys, and then just get out of there.
Yeah.
See, this is the part where you save scum.
No,
You really
it's the
have
part where you roll with Gale in your party and you got fucking magic missiles that never miss, baby.
Yeah, I've been avoiding magic missile because I like just in all my time playing D&D, I've always thought magic missile is like it's the pepperoni pizza of spells. You know what I mean? It's the most basic. Like everyone gets pepperoni, everyone gets magic missile.
I think
Okay,
right now
so-
I've got a bear in my party, so that's actually pretty cool.
Oh yeah.
Hell yeah.
As in,
I've
as your
So-
ranger, that's your like you're rolling around with that as your pet thing.
No,
I don't know anything about rangers.
it's
just
one of the
assuming.
characters that you encounter.
That's a party member.
I haven't come across
Yeah.
a bear.
Me neither.
Really?
Are you talking
That's
about
wild.
the druid guy?
Yeah.
I can't
He's
get him
not-
to join my group.
Me neither.
Oh, I was really nice to him, and my companions were like, "Why are you doing this?"
Wait, you can recruit a druid?
He's
I'm
super
like
chill
done
with
with
me.
Yeah.
Act 1. I'm nice with him. I did all
Dude.
the dialogue options. I can't
That's
get him.
wild that you've got him already.
What the hell?
Yeah,
That's
he joined
crazy.
me like right away, and then I tried to go to camp, and he's like, "Wait, we have to finish the business here," because he wanted me to help kill all the people in the camp.
I've been waiting for him. He's sitting in my camp. He's like following me around.
I have to ask. Okay, so we
That's
can
crazy.
talk. Our thing is that we're talking up to the Goblin Camp. Let me ask, because I did not find him until like after I did something outside of the Goblin Camp. But did you like
Oh.
find him within the camp itself and save him? Because
Okay,
that's apparently where he
so
is.
and this kind of like goes back to me getting jailed, and he ended up being located in the same jail area as my character, so it kind of worked out because as soon as I busted out of the cell, then there was like a cutscene, and then they wanted me to like throw stuff at him. I was like, no, that's awful. and then he broke out and then joined my party. So I was like, heck yeah.
That's some shit. I
We missed
busted him
out.
out of jail.
Dude,
I
that's
would have
some
wanted him.
druid any percent speedrun. Just go to jail.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Oh my god, this game is so
That's
good.
crazy that because I busted him out too. He's like, I got business to attend to. Like, I'll talk with you later.
Yeah, he told me
What the
that too, but
fuck?
then he's like, "You want to help me?" And I was like, "Okay."
That's
Damn.
crazy.
Huh. I wonder if there's like some sort of passive, like maybe it's a race or like maybe because you're a
Yeah.
ranger and you feel some sort of
Maybe.
nature.
And
I don't know.
before, so like the goblins were like torturing him basically, and I abstained from doing that, and he made a comment about it, so maybe that was part of it.
I didn't torture him either. What the fuck? I'm
I-
just so
it's-
confused because he's in my camp, like just chilling. He's just there, but he can't bring him as a party member. But he's just like,
Oh,
I'm
weird.
just
Yeah,
here with
he's
you.
currently in my party, and I get to control
That's
him. And
bizarre.
Yeah, same deal with mine. He's just in the camp, like as if he's part of the group, but he's
Yeah.
not.
That's wild.
But I have to guess it's just like some dialogue option I picked just didn't lead
That's
to the
fair.
right.
See,
like,
even weird stuff like that.
It's you can.
I just
pick
assumed
one
we couldn't get him
dialogue.
until like Act 2, because I know,
Yeah.
I know there's more characters you don't see until much later. That could be party members.
Yeah.
But, huh?
And
One small decision can like really drastically impact the course of your game.
Yeah.
I have a feeling, even something that doesn't feel very significant.
yeah, like stealing a drink and going to jail, apparently.
Exactly.
Yeah.
it is nuts just how much this game because usually when I think of going to jail in an RPG, I think of like the Skyrim way that it happens, where
Yeah.
it just feels like a true waste of time, like to the definition of waste of time, you know.
Great game, by the way. Skyrim.
And this is like, I think we've had 2 jail stories and on this podcast that both have ended in some interesting like outcome. You know,
Yeah.
it's different, and that's wild.
Yeah. One thing to bring it back to combat, since I know we kind of veered off from that again, because there's so much just fun stuff to talk about with this game. The combat, what I do like, but it's just how it is very much like, I don't know, just do what the fuck you want, like give it a go, and like it'll probably do something. Is it effective every time? No, but but you can give it a go. You can try. I love that, just like out in the, as you're just running around the world, like if you're like thinking, can I do that? Like this seems such a lame thing to say, because I say that about so many games. Like, can I do that? Yes, you can. But like, you really, like, they've thought of so many fucking ways you can interact with stuff that has its own unique thing, and that's true in combat too.
Yeah.
Like you can really get weird with it and do whatever you want.
I mean,
kinda crazy.
I've beaten a boss by thunder waving them into a chasm.
Yeah.
Like you can just do that.
Yeah.
I did that to a boss, and then I save scummed that because it's just one of those things where it's like, I'm curious, what are the other ways you can do this, right? And then when I got that boss down to like 20 HP, they stopped and was like, okay, let's make a deal. I was like, okay, I missed that because I just shoved them into a
You just
fucking pit
get
the
the
last
fuck outta
time.
here. Yeah.
So that's interesting that, you know, like maybe don't always shove enemies into pits unless they're just like, you know,
Yeah.
basic goblins or something.
And have you guys realized, I know it just feels like bouncing all over the place, it just made me think of that, I didn't really think about it until I've been playing it for a while, like traversing through stuff, getting to places, you can get just as creative as you want with that.
Yeah.
Like I've been very tempted to take the flying spell and just be like, I'm just gonna see where the fuck I can go. I haven't done it yet, but like I was like, oh yeah, I can like jump, and then I was like, oh my god, the map is like opened up so much.
Yeah.
And there's a point where there's a big hole in the ground, and it's like you can just stare at it and be like, huh, that's fucking weird. I'm not dealing with that. You can totally just jump, like use the jump action and then hit the middle of the hole, and you're going down a fucking hole.
And
There's its own cutscene and animation for it and everything.
Oh, it's amazing. Wait, but do you die, I assume?
I will not say what happens, but you
Okay.
can do that. If you'll know the moment I'm talking about, because it's very like you can click on your character's like, I don't know, something fucking big's down there, and like fuck that, whoever made that. And then you can be like, all right, whatever, I'm going. And there's just lots of little stuff like that. It's so stupid.
I know the hole you're talking about. I never thought to jump in it because that would be stupid, but now I kind of want to.
I didn't think of it either. And then one of another journalist that I follow used to write here, like posted his little clip of it, and I was like, oh fuck, that's hilarious. Like I didn't think about it either because I was like, fuck that. I was like, in my mind I was like, oh, I'll see whatever that thing is later. But yeah, you can just do that. Like
Yeah. I mean, it's something that I learned with Divinity 1 and 2 is there are bits where it's like if you have a spell or an ability that
Yeah.
lets you leap, they always hide shit off to the sides.
Yep.
So you can use jump for that in this game, which is nice. And I've been using more liberally than I should. I've been using Lae'zel. She has that one ability where she can like triple her jumping
Yeah.
distance, and then since she's like strength, dex, athletics, AF, dude, she can like clear a whole like literally Superwoman one leap, just
Yeah.
clear a whole field. It's nuts.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I think it's like she has psionics or something.
Yeah.
So she also has like
Yeah.
a spectral hand that can grab something from afar.
Yeah.
But what I love about just the different avenues you can take, it reminds me of immersive sims like Dishonored,
In a
Prey.
bit, yeah.
It's not an immersive sim, but it feels like it because there are like, 5 different solutions to go one way, and that's just through traversal. And I mean, I guess the game is really immersive, anyways. Like I find myself just playing until 4 a.m.
Just like real life.
so-
I've seen a lot of
Yeah.
comments of that, of like, it's one of those games where you look at the clock and like, oh, fuck.
Yeah.
I fucked mine tomorrow up big time. Like,
Yeah. Okay, so to try to bring it back to combat for a third time.
yeah.
Because this game is too big. I do think that you do miss a lot, which is annoying at first, but I both enjoy and hate the level of spell variety you can get, and just to the level because like once you start stacking things up, like I'm only at level 3 with my characters, but there's already like it's not overwhelming yet, but I could see it becoming overwhelming down the line how many options you have.
Particularly with if you're running something like Gale or you are playing like a wizard, and like gold's not the hardest thing to come by, and it's pretty cheap to learn a spell from a scroll, like relatively, and so you could just really go crazy with it. I mean, not that you can use all of them at once, because that's another thing they don't explain to people super well. It eventually comes up at some point, like you have to prepare spells, otherwise you can't use them. So you can know like 20, but you can only have like 8 or whatever the number is. So yeah, you could definitely have a lot of shit. And then there's all the like items that'll just be like, here, you have this ability now or this spell, so you just have a ton of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unless you're like a sorcerer or a warlock, where they can't. You don't have to prepare, but you just learn spells and that's it. And you can only swap them out when you level up, kind of like Pokemon almost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I always find that I rely on like a core group of spells, and like I have some stuff for like random situations. I really like Grease for some reason.
No, we're talking about the game.
You are from the south, so I mean.
Okay, yeah. But yeah, the spell Grease is funny because I think that stuff is flammable too.
Yep. It is. That's the whole point of
it. Yeah, just so you could slip in them and then set them on fire. Like it's great fun.
Yeah, I've started to like with certain spells like this, because I'm with you. I've got a core like old reliable. It's like I know I'll get this will do the job if I need to kill something or whatever. But I'm starting to like just pick up stuff like, oh, I could just use this around the environment, or I wonder if that'll be a weird fucking thing I can do. And like, cause there's I haven't got it yet, but I've been so tempted because it just feels so stupid for me to get. I don't know why, but there's a little ability that monks can get where they can create a giant ice cube, and you just make an ice cube, and it's like you can climb this, and I'm like, well, that just let me get places. Like, what the fuck's the deal with this cube? And I haven't done it yet, but I think probably next time the opportunity, I'll be like, I'm getting the cube. Like, what's going on with this cube?
Wouldn't you just slip on it?
I don't know.
Just throw it at people.
You can do that too, but like it's like it makes the point to be like you can climb on this, and I'm like, oh, does that mean I can get to places? What is this? What is this for? I don't know, but I want to use it.
Huh.
So it's just weird stuff like that. I've started to be like, because like I think it's really easy when you get like spell stuff, which is cool with this. It's really easy to just be like, oh, how is this useful to me in combat? Where now it's like, oh, what does this do for me outside of like what can I fuck with the world? How can I do that? I'm really thinking about that now.
I mean, I've sacrificed one of my the spells I know as a sorcerer. So I got like 2 level 2 spells. One of them, I don't even remember. It's a damage dealing one of some kind. But then the other is read thoughts. So in combat, I'm really not that great because I have a
Yeah.
pretty limited selection of spells. But then in dialogue, like all it is a skill check, and I can just read people's minds. And then when you
Yeah.
do that, it's kind of it's a similar outcome as like insight or wisdom or things like that. But you get a dialogue option that very pointedly responds to whatever they're thinking in their mind to like basically succeed a speech check. Um, and that's just from a spell, which is kind of neat.
Yeah. I'm with Will because when the warlock leveled up one of the spells, or whatever they called it, I don't even think it was a spell. So it was something
It's a
like that.
warlock. Are you thinking of the
What is
speak to
the?
animals?
Yeah, I just got that and I was like, fuck, he's my guy that can speak to animals.
Yep.
I'll just have that sit with him forever, and just cast it once every long rest kind of thing.
Yeah, I think Karlak, depending on what specialty you give her for barbarian, I think she also gets something that can speak to animals.
Yeah, mine does.
Yeah. So it's
I forget the name.
It's Wild Heart, I think. It's their version of
Yeah.
like the
Oh well, there's the wild
totems,
magic. Yeah.
I think. Well, there's wild magic, which I was really
Yeah.
tempted to do, but my sorcerer's already wild magic, so
Oh.
they
Yeah.
don't want to double up.
It's
You know, Auden mentioned like he was thinking of how to use spells outside of combat. I kind of had the opposite where I could just make water or make it disappear as a cleric.
I wish I could do that because that's so useful.
It is. I'm a Tempest cleric and I use lightning a lot. So if I could just make a puddle of water and electrocute it, that's also really useful in combat.
There's like an item that like it says whenever your character steps in the water, it automatically electrifies the water.
Yeah,
too,
I
so
have
you can
that
just
too.
Set that up.
I haven't like put it to good use yet, but I want to just to like because I have a feeling it would be like really powerful, but I don't know. Combat situations just kind of they're so varied in this that you never know when you'll use it.
But to talk about items for a second, I love how like something seemingly small is actually like really big sometimes with them, and like a new item could be like, oh fuck, that changes a lot of what I could like that. Like just getting it one access to one ability or one thing does a lot for you. Like coming across something that had Misty Step on it, I'm like, oh, thank you.
Yeah,
This is
Misty
so
Step,
useful.
yeah.
This is such a good ability to use to have around.
Yeah.
But it's amazing how much those can change things. Like very much the style of how that character works or what you can do. For a while there, I was like, man, all the gear fucking sucks. Like I'm just using the basic stuff forever. Like it takes a while to get something, but then it kind of just it keeps pouring over you, and you're like, oh my god, there's so many things to consider.
Yeah.
Because it's not just straight like this does more damage, therefore I should use that more. And it's like, well, like there's a lot of other stuff to consider actually.
Yeah, and that's just how D&D is, right? There is a pretty straightforward like +1, +2, whatever's, but then the more interesting stuff is what's the weird shit this weapon can do, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
What powerful stuff can you just stumble across too? Also, like speaking of capers, there's one caper I did because I was like, fuck these guys, they suck. I'm gonna rob them. That was risky. I had one potion of invisibility. I'm like, yeah, you're on a clock, buddy. Get this shit done. Yeah, and I ran. It paid off. Item was fucking wild. That I got out of it. I didn't know it was in there. I was just like, this is something in here. I know it. But
that's the beauty of Baldur's Gate. We've talked for an hour on this. I'm sure we could easily talk for like
we haven't even
hours
talked
more,
about the story. We haven't talked about the Mind Flayer stuff of the worms. Or where that goes.
And this is all just Act 1, by the way.
Yeah. Like, I mean, honestly,
we didn't really talk about Act 1 at all. We didn't talk about any of the events, none of the shit.
We just talked about the weird shit our characters can do, right? Well, there's one final question I want to ask. It's mainly for you, Erren, as our review in progress, technically, even though this is a game that arguably no one will ever finish. Just generally, how are you feeling about the game?
I'm feeling pretty good. Like, even though I talked about how it was, a bit daunting at first, and how I've spent so much time like wrapping my head around all the various systems, I'm really getting into it now that I know what to do, and I'm really actually interested in the story, the various relationships with the different companions, and even the NPCs tend to have interesting things to say. So it's like all this different world building and like immersing myself in it is really just like pulling my interest, and I'm definitely feeling like this is a pretty solid game.
Yeah, I think this. Yeah,
I
I
would
agree with you 100%.
It's just
Like it's actually really overwhelming, just like how much, and we've talked about this, but just how much is in the game, and like you really can't see all of it just trying to go around and look at it, because you'll spend hours. Like I probably spent, I don't know, at least 10 hours just like in the first camp area, just kind of going around everybody and seeing what they had to say.
And pickpocketing them all, and
Well, maybe not that, because you know, some of them are like, I'm watching you, and I'm like, oh well, that's okay.
yeah, it gives me a vibe of like it's all the hype of Cyberpunk at the year 2019,
how dare you?
but delivered.
Yeah,
How dare
and
you.
I mean,
Kinda.
even though like the Mind Flayer story, like I did not expect that at all. It's kind of like, oh my god, it's aliens.
Yeah, kind of though, right?
Yeah, they talk about it like these guys are aliens. I'm like, yeah, pretty much. And you know, they've got a worm in my head, and that's probably not a good thing. And
It seems like
So,
Valerian really likes to infect its people with stuff. Like, you have a collar, now figure that fucking shit out.
Yeah,
Original Sin 2, and now it's like, you got a worm, now figure that out.
a good way to give you the sense of urgency to get your character into the mystery of like what the heck is going on.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's urgency, sure, but then also like, what happens if I steal that bottle, right? Like,
True.
Although,
True.
did anybody have like this thing of like, boy, do I really have to be judicious with these long rests? Because like I'm on a like they're saying like I could just get fucked at any
Oh.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I didn't think of that, but now I like if you just kind of keep hitting long rest. Is there a point where it's like
I
game over?
did it a couple times in a row just to see what would happen, and it gave me this story cutscene, and I was like, oh, okay, well, that's interesting.
Oh,
Yeah,
like
so-
about the worm, and it's like, oh man.
Yeah, about like how I need to embrace it or whatever, and I was like, okay.
yeah. There's the worm story goes places, but there are definitely some quests, some things that are time sensitive in the sense of like it's probably a bad idea to long rest right now unless then something will change in the world of that quest and you will not be able to do certain things anymore. Those are usually pretty like it's a common sense kind of thing of like, hey, there's a time limit on this. There's not like, here's your timer, like, or they say you better get here before blah de blah,
Right.
or whatever. But it's like, if you think about it, you're like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Like, I should probably not fuck around if this is actually happening.
It's a real living world you can immerse yourself in, right? But speaking of being judicious with time, I think I'm gonna put
Just one thing, one before we
okay.
go. It's very
Before we
small.
go.
It's very small. How much are we loving rolling the dice?
Oh, it's great.
Seeing
It's
that
pretty
roll
good.
up,
It's
seeing the
awesome. I mean,
animation.
most of the time I end up with success, so I'm not like too annoyed at it yet,
Not
but
hating
we'll
it
see
yet.
what happens.
Yeah.
I'm hating my actual physical die because I have a feeling they're rigged now. Weighted
Oh,
towards
that's
the
true. I
one.
forgot to mention how I've been playing it. Where's my die at?
Oh, are you actually rolling a physical die every time you?
If there's a certain decision that I find that I'm like kind of I could go either way on, it's up to the die. I live up. The
that's
die
pretty
just
good.
makes the decision for me.
See, my favorite die roll isn't the where it like pauses the game and it's like you're looking at the up and down check. My favorite is when you're just walking by and it says perception check failed. That is my favorite because you know, okay, there's some shit going on
Oh
here.
shit!
I
Yeah,
don't know what.
there's a lot
Next
of that
thing you
happens,
know,
or
you're
you come across
exploding.
something,
Yeah.
and you're like, oh god, how much stuff am I not seeing that's just unavailable because I'm not passing stuff or whatever. Like all these fucking chests I keep digging up everywhere.
Yeah. So that's
But
probably one of my favorite.
I
just
do love
checks
the
is that.
rolling the dice and the animation that goes with it. I don't know why, like just waiting for it to hit the number and seeing if it comes through. I mean I get it's getting the same feeling people get at playing D&D physically, rolling die now.
Wait,
Dice
there's
now, how
physical
fun that is.
version?
Yeah, it's good. It's a good little touch, nice little touch. I got part of me is like I wish they had an option where, because they're rolling the same shit like that D&D does all throughout the game. Like if for trying to hit somebody, like they just to make it not take a billion years, they just automate it for you. But they'll reference it in certain abilities that you use. I wish they had something where I could turn it on and be like, yeah, I want to see these rolls go down. Like, I want to roll it.
Just everything.
Why
God,
not?
that would turn this into like a 300-hour game.
It would take a lot longer. Yeah, I get it's a good choice to streamline it. They made the right move.
Yeah.
I agree. All right, well, that is a wrap for this week's episode of the TechRaptor podcast. Erren, thank you so much again for joining us on the show.
And thank you for having me.
Of course, we're happy to have you. We are curious what your thoughts are with Baldur's Gate 3. We assume you might be one of the 800 plus thousand people who have played it on Steam in the past couple weeks. And if you have, let us know what your character is, what their name is, and what their whole vibe is. What's their Tinder bio? Let us know in the comments down below. We would love to read what you guys have. If you like this show, please leave us a like if you're listening on YouTube, and leave us a review if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you are listening. It would really help us out, algorithm and all that. And if you haven't hit subscribe already, why not? You are here at the 60, 70-minute mark. Why not hit subscribe? Thank you. We'd
Roll
really
the die.
appreciate it. Roll,
Yeah.
flip a coin.
Take a D20 and just decide whatever odds you want and roll it.
Yeah.
14 says you should subscribe. That's what it says to me.
But only if you roll a 14.
Above that. Anything below that.
Fair. And if you want more of us, we have news, features, reviews, etc. Always going up at TechRaptor.net. Again, there's an Atlas Fallen one on our site for Rut's review. We gave it a pretty interesting score. You can check that out.
He's a technical guy.
He's got good taste, so you can trust his review.
Or you can see our review of 30XX, that totally not Mega Man roguelike.
And the interview with it.
Yes, the interview, which is also on YouTube. You can check that out. If you want more of this show, though, we will be back in your feed next Monday, and we will see you then.